I just got out of the shower. I'm not putting on one of my hats, so you guys are gonna have to deal with long-haired Scott for this video. I'll at least tie it up. All right, I'm not gonna be the first one to say this, but the M4 can get a little boring to me. I've been accused of being an M4 hater and that I don't recommend them enough despite them being the best option for beginners. Yeah, no, that's pretty ironic, right? But even if I'm not too wowed by most M4s when it comes to the stuff on the outside, I'd be a fool to say that there's not many strengths that this platform has to offer, especially if you get one this solid for the price point of about $250 or $260. So let me go ahead and talk about this one. This would be the Arcturus feature-enhanced Mark I sword. There's a few versions of this same platform, but I have the 13.5-inch carbine model to balance out all the PDW M4s in my collection. These have already been on the market for a while now, but with a list of extra features that Arcturus recently gave them, I think it's about time that we take a look at them. It's a solid base on the outside with a ton of features on the inside, and great performance on the field. So thanks to Arcturus, who's letting me say anything I want about this piece, as well as give it away to one of you very soon, and thanks to EVIC, who are currently stocking the entire sword lineup, as well as Phantom Gear, who have recently sent stuff like this, the new Polarity plate carrier. It might not be too new, but I think a lot of people need to know about this thing. I currently have 2 of these, and secretly I want a few more, and right now I have to say the Phantom Gear Polarity that I've been using on a few different video shoots, especially our last 1v1, I think that it's a great piece, especially with these magnetic buckles. Just makes taking it off and putting it back on super easy. Definitely give Phantom Gear a look once in a while. They've got some great stuff. But yeah, thanks to Arcturus, Phantom Gear, and of course EVIC, we can now go ahead and take a look at this Mark I sword, check out the performance, the chronograph readings, see what's inside, and determine if this is really worth your buck. And we'll start that off where we always begin, with the unboxing. If you've ever looked inside an Arcturus box recently, then you already know these things come chock full of great stuff. Open the lid and we get some paperwork consisting of an ETU programming card, a quality certificate, and a paperback manual. Then we get the polymer 130 to 30 round variable mid-cap magazine. These are always nice to have, especially if you want an extra challenge by handicapping yourself by using real capacity limits. Just flip the switch inside and you're done. Then we get a pair of plastic backup sights, a buffer tube cap, a buffer tube wrench, a proper black flash hider, which I always love to see. Then there's an Arcturus logo magnet and a patch. We also get a Deans to small type battery connection adapter, and then finally the unjamming / cleaning rod. That's a lot of extras, and we all appreciate that. And with that, we're already done with the unboxing. Next, I'm going to quickly go over everything you need to know if you're looking at this new Arcturus for your next or your first replica. So weight is middle of the ground for an M4 of this length, thanks to its high strength polymer body. There are 4 variants to choose from, with the one I have being the longest of the bunch. At the end of the aluminum outer barrel, we get 14mm counterclockwise threads, which is standard, so feel free to use either the included muzzle device in the box or anything else you'd like. You can also use the top rail for whatever sights you would like, which goes from aluminum to polymer as it runs across the M-LOK rail to the receiver. The included sights are a nice touch. They're pretty basic, but will get the job done, especially the rear sight that comes with a large aperture with a flip up secondary aperture if you want a tighter sight picture. You can also adjust the front sight for elevation with the use of a small dial, and the rear is adjustable for windage, so use these if you would like. Everything up front and up top is all standard for the most part, highly customizable and easy to work with. The adjustable stock is also about the same. I appreciate the cutie sling slots that work with the matching points along the rail up front, and I really like how easy it is to get to the Deans connections. I don't need any tools for any of the commonly used features, which is great for the beginners out there. Battery space is also pretty good, especially if you tend to use candy bar LiPo style batteries or even tri-panel batteries. I particularly like the rubberized butt pad, and that because of the included Deans to small type adapter that was included, you shouldn't need to struggle with something like this Arcturus. And with that, I would say that everything so far is very good, and that continues along to the controls, as everything is ambidextrous, from the magazine releases to the very nice selector switches and the bolt release. The selector switches will click into place very clearly, and I don't have any issues with magazines getting stuck or weird misfeeds. The rotary hop-up Arcturus has been using for a while now makes a return here, and despite the polymer construction of the receiver, even the thinnest of areas are very difficult to make flex by hand. Shaking the Arcturus sword also doesn't reveal any wobbly parts or weird sounds. I know that I'm blitzing this review, but it's mostly a standard M4. There's no weird hidden features or really distracting problems with this thing. If I really tried to hate on it, I would have to say that the dust cover doesn't always stay in place, along with the mock bolt being really lazy to return on mine, or that the pistol grip looks a bit unfinished. I feel like some kind of base plate is missing here, but when this is the stuff I'm ragging on, then you know I'm really trying to balance out this review. I guess probably out of all those three, the bolt release is probably the most annoying thing. This could be a quality control issue, but I feel like these ambidextrous bolt releases almost don't mean anything if my bolt face is still gonna get stuck like this. I don't know though. I have been using this thing for a couple months now, and nothing odd ever really came up, but on the contrary, the technology inside is what really excites me. And we begin looking at all the tech inside by splitting open the polymer receiver to check out the 6.02mm QPQ carbon steel inner barrel. It comes with the same rotary hop-up most of us are familiar with when it comes to Arcturus, along with the 2-point bucking that always does wonders for us at 250 feet or 76 meters. This is a really nice combo for sure. With the new version 2 V2 hybrid gearbox out, we would like to appreciate that Arcturus added a window to release the anti-reversal latch, and that it's had a pin added to keep it from popping out so easily. If you're used to pulling out so many gearboxes and having to struggle with this stupid latch, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Techs around the world are probably smiling at this little addition. As for the components inside, we have a quick access spring guide that could be accessed through the buffer tube if you would like to remove your included linear spring and steel 2-tab ball bearing spring guide. The gear set all look the same as usual for Arcturus, as well as the air seal that once again is great thanks to the polymer piston with full steel teeth, a standard ball bearing piston head, a stainless steel ported cylinder, a polymer air nozzle with a single O-ring, and the polymer cylinder head with a single O-ring as well. As for the rotation of the gears, we get an 8mm ball bearing on the bevel gear and bushings on the spur and sector gear. And if you're wondering what this white layer is on the inside of the gearbox right here, it aids to promote reflection off the optical sensor from the ETU that these Arcturus feature enhanced models come with. More stuff that we really like to see was the reinforcements around the front of the gearbox and the radial cuts in the corners of the cylinder window. But two things really disappointed me this time around for Arcturus. And that starts with the very low quality thin motor connection terminals that both broke off after taking the motor out a single time, and the disappearance of the really thick Dean's connections seen with the LWT that I loved so much. I can accept the lack of the beefy Dean's connections, but the gauge wiring or the terminals themselves need work. We don't normally open up these gearboxes like cavemen, but as soon as I tried to pull the connectors away from the motor, they just fell apart. Both of them just cracked, without much pressure being put onto them in the first place. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. But moving back over to the ETU, this is the main bread and butter for this release. This thing is full of options to help you customize your fire selections, your trigger sensitivity, and more. You get 7 levels of pre-cocking, 8 levels of active braking, 5 levels of trigger sensitivity, 5 levels of trigger reset distance, binary with automatic ramping, low battery protection, burst fire options, and even semi lockout. I would highly suggest that you read this card if you become an owner of one of these, and that you try out as many options that you can and also play around with the physically adjustable trigger along with the electronic options to get an overly snappy, damn near hair trigger spam machine. You can really abuse the trigger sensitivity on this thing. Also, due to how the trigger is designed, it will always work even if the trigger is adjusted physically. Upon system startup, the trigger system will detect how far the trigger can be pulled and determine the breakpoint and reset in relationship to the physical length the trigger can be pulled. Then wrapping up the internals and heading into performance, we went to the chronograph with some 0.2 gram BBs to discover that the readings were a bit over US CQB limits and that the consistency was pretty good. Rate of fire wasn't out of the ordinary either, with an 11.1 LiPo battery, but funny enough, that's what I expected of an Arcturus M4 aimed towards intermediate players. At the range though, we skipped right past 150 feet and went straight to 200 with no wind, and this was still a cakewalk. 250 feet was also pretty easy as long as you take your time, but I would suggest some .32 gram BBs if you expect to go for shots this far. I may have used up all my .32 gram BBs playing with this thing before I ever got to the range test, but they still could be overhopped, so take that into account. So altogether, the Arcturus sword line mainly suffers from a bit of a boring design, but great performance to me. You get a lot of customization thanks to the feature enhanced ETU, and I love that you can really shorten the trigger further with that adjustable screw. It's lightweight, even as the biggest variant, and I didn't have any problems with feeding or misfiring, no dramatic deviations in accuracy, no abnormal battery life, and I've said it before, but I love all the extra stuff that Arcturus adds into their boxes. But I have to mention the motor wires one more time. They're just too flimsy, and the mock bolt was just awful. I'm guessing this is a testament to quality control, maybe? But either way, I hope this isn't something that becomes an issue for Arcturus later on, because this would be just such an annoying thing to have to deal with. As for the price, $270 as a unit can be broken down to about $100 for the ETU and other electronics, $100 for the body, and $70 for the rail, and that's not taking into account all the extras in the box. Without dragging this review on any longer, I would say Arcturus has a nice new intermediate piece to get sandwiched in between their high-end stuff, which I really like, and all the beginner stuff that I'm seeing lately, which I've been recommending a lot. But would I recommend the new Arcturus Sword Mark I FE and its variants? Yes, I think that's pretty obvious. However, I would like for them to take a look at the certain pieces that I've pointed out here that I haven't liked, especially those motor connections, and maybe explain what's going on with that. Is it stand out in any way? No, not physically. Performance-wise, it's on par with other Arcturuses, so there's something that owners can brag about. If you can snag one of these up for a discount, then you'll be a major winner. But at full retail, it's a good deal, in my opinion. I'd also suggest checking out the Arcturus ATAX if you're looking for something with a lot of the same performance stats and internals that make the Sword FEs so great. I will say though that I think I need to go ahead and try out some other stuff other than M4s. As great as these can be, they just kinda lack in character sometimes. Sorry. Next, I would like to give this piece away to one lucky USAirsoft subscriber. And if you're already on the USAirsoft subreddit, then you're already entered in. You just don't know it yet. Keep an eye out for the giveaway video, which will be going up maybe this month or more than likely next month. Anyway, I appreciate you all watching this video, and I appreciate Arcturus for letting me say anything I'd like about this piece. I can't wait to hand this over to someone who really needs it, but until that next video drops from the city of San Antonio, Texas, this has been Scott Hollenbeck, and I will be sure to see you all next time. My beautiful doggy. Go, baby.